Let me ask you a question. Start this morning with a question. Have any of you ever found a treasure? Anybody ever found a treasure? Years ago, about 100 years ago, when I was in seminary, Carol and I went there, and all our belongings fit in one of those tiny little U-Haul trailers. I mean the little one, like $10 a day or whatever. And I pulled it all the way up there in my Vega. And we pulled up in front of the school, and I had Hebrew classes for 6 hours that afternoon, from noon till 6, and we didn't even have a place to live. We were broke, we had nothing going for us, and Carol sat out in the car, not in the car, but walked around campus for 6 hours waiting for me to get out of my first Hebrew class. Then we'd go try and find housing somewhere. And the Lord worked all that out, and we did, and I was broke, and the next morning I was kind of shuffling as I do, walking down the street, going to seminary, and she was sitting at our little, it was a burnt out bank building is what it was, but somebody had made a little apartment up on the top floor, so we rented that for $85 a month. And she was trying to make it into some kind of home. And I was walking and shuffling, something caught my eyes in the street, and I picked it up, and it was a gold bracelet. And it was mashed. You know, cars had been driving over it. And it was kind of nasty and dirty, and I looked at it, and I was playing with a heavy sucker. So I sat there and I looked, and it's $14K. Ooh. Well, remember that when the gold prices went so high and everybody was standing in line at the malls to get, cash in all their gold and stuff? Well, they were doing that in Kentucky as well. So we drove 25 miles into Lexington and stood in line for about an hour and a half to see what this thing was worth. And we got up there, $878. Ooh.
You're rich.
In that day and age, I was. $878, something like that. I just went, wow. Just walking down the street. I read this week, I was looking at great treasures. I read this week that in London, England, a brother and sister were cleaning out their mother's apartment as she had passed away, and cleaning out her apartment, where they came upon an old vase that they thought, well, this is pretty fancy. And they went and had it appraised because they weren't sure if it was, a replica or a real thing. Anyway, it turns out it was $2 million.
Whoa!
$2 million. However, they didn't sell it. They took it to Sotheby's auction or whatever it is there in London. And it turned out to be an 18th century, 1700s Shang dynasty, and they put it up for auction, and the end price, it sold for $69 million.
Whoa!
A vase sitting in Mom's cupboard for the last 60 years. How many of you would like to do that? You're going to go home and look at Mom's cabinet now, aren't you? And you go, oh, Tom, that's just a story. But those things happen. Those things happen. Now, that bracelet wasn't worth $69 million, but it was worth $876. And Carol and I actually bought food, and we were able to survive. Sometimes this world offers great treasures. Guys offshore that find gold coins in a reef or something like that. Other guys digging in their backyard and they hit the mother lode or something. But the scripture says there's a greater treasure, a greater possession that all of us possess. And that is the very presence of God within each and every one of us. Even though we are fragile, we're clay creatures, we're like clay jars. The Lord has granted His privilege to live and to dwell in us. And that treasure is even greater than anything you'll ever find in this world. We're going to talk about that in light of a people and a church that was very much depressed and despairing. And Paul said, oh, be of good cheer. There's more to you than meets the eye. We're going to talk about that this morning. First, I want you to stand up one final time.